Okay, let's kick off, shall we? So first of all, in today's agenda, so I want to talk about, with respect to your QMS and having a mature QMS, is there a compliance problem when there are issues, or is it a culture problem, or is it a blend potentially? Also, is there a link between quality culture and a mature QMS? Keys to shifting the dial, moving that dial up towards a stronger quality culture. Everyone can do some things. It is possible in any company. How you take action, so showing you some things that you can do quickly, and also some things that you can consider about your own behaviours and the way that you actually are working. And then we'll have some time for some Q&A. Okay, let's dive in. Oh, I'm on the wrong slide. You've seen that already. Okay, the problem. Compliance versus culture. What are we talking about there? So I might just start off with a short story really about my journey moving into the quality culture space. Now, as earlier in my career as a quality professional and also as a then GMP consultant, my main idea of what a strong QMS was all about would have been around simple, easy to use procedures which were trained well and that were simple to use, having a robust processes and products, and also then following the GMP rules. So who actually thinks that's a good idea? In the chat, does that sound like a good way to have compliance, to be strong in compliance? Anyone agree with me? Maybe, and if you don't agree with me, you can say that too. So look, we're just waiting for the responses. Yes, thank you, Stephen. Yes, I'm glad you agree. Thanks, Wim. Yes. Oh, yes, says Stephen. Thank you. Daryl, yes, that's great. Okay. I would say the same thing too. However, the more I work with clients and you're working with clients and understanding their needs, etc., I've actually come to realise that actually come to realise that it's not the whole thing. So even if you do have strong procedures and you've got robust processes and products, etc., and you're trying to follow the rules, if you don't have a strong quality culture, it can actually you can be pulling in the wrong directions. So let's dive into that in a little bit more. So we're looking at compliance versus culture, and compliance and culture essentially. So let's think about your experiences. Have you experienced any of these? So a company culture that actually sabotages its own compliance. So in this situation, you might have senior leaders, managers at a level that you might be yourself, or it just might be across the board. Everyone within the organisation may not have the correct mindset around quality and compliance. And so decisions that are made and activities that are completed can actually sabotage the compliance. Or you might have the situation where your QMS isn't valued. Now, I had a funny situation, and I say funny tongue-in-cheek, with a client only a few weeks ago. And he told me that he thought that the QMS was just paperwork. And, and so he was much more interested in the technical aspects of the project that we were working on. And he really didn't want to be bothered with QMS, because that was just paperwork, and an admin person would take care of that. And so this person was a senior leader, and they were making strategic decisions around the project. And in that case, you have a QMS, it's not valued. It's not an asset for the company. It is just seen as a tick in the box. It sits in a folder, or you have to read it maybe once, and then that's it. And so that can be very, very frustrating for your QA people, as well as trying to maintain your compliance. Or you might have a situation where there's a disconnect between your senior decision makers and the compliance requirements. This can happen in a range of situations, where you have, particularly in larger businesses, you can actually have like a fracture line between your senior leadership and your the rest of the business. And so, sorry, I've got a cat who is insisting on sitting on my lap. So you can actually have a fracture line between those senior leaders who quite often don't think that they need to follow compliance, that the rest of the business takes care of that. However, they're making the strategic decisions around where the business is going and providing resources, etc. And so that can actually cause a lot of friction, cause a lot of problems. And sometimes the situation is because the CEO hasn't come up through the ranks in the pharmaceutical industry and just doesn't understand. Sometimes they're not interested, and other times it's just the company's got large and things that have become too large and I'll call it gangly for the way of describing how the business is not well coordinated and well topped down. All right. And the last experience that you might relate to in this situation is you have staff, they're well-meaning. You train them in GMP, you train them in the client compliance requirements, and they intend to comply, but their old default ways of working, which quite often are not compliant, they tend to creep in. And that is usually when the culture is not strong, compliance is not reinforced and well communicated. So there's 4 experiences there, and I'm sure many of you, and I'm seeing in the chat as well, that you are relating to these situations. So what does that mean for a mature QMS? So if your QMS, it's reasonably robust processes, your processes are strong, it's generally well documented, so that there might be some things wrong with the SOPs, the procedures, but in general, everything is okay. Staff are trained, they at least read and understand in the processes, and so they should know what they're doing. Yet mistakes still happen. And so often this can actually happen repeatedly, and sometimes it can be the same department repeatedly. So is there more going on here than just a compliance issue? Is there a cultural issue? Is there other things at play that kind of short circuit people's thinking almost in following compliance? There's other tugs of war happening. So let's dig into that a little bit. So is there that link between culture and a mature QMS? So from a foundational point of view, let's just look at culture or organizational culture. What is it? So culture is an umbrella term which encompasses the social behaviour and norms found in human societies, as well as knowledge, beliefs, values, laws, customs, capabilities and habits of the individuals in this group. Now just think about yourself, from a personal perspective, think about your habits. Do you have any habits that you'd actually like to change and you find that really difficult? So a habit can actually be quite difficult to change, and when it is in the workplace, then obviously we need some strong triggers and cues for people to be able to get out of bad habits, out of bad compliance habits. But there's a whole range of things there that are contributing to culture. So that's organisational culture. What does it mean when we say quality culture? So let's take all of that definition, the social behaviours, the norms in our companies, and then just align that with your GXP quality expectations. And that's kind of my quick summary of what a quality culture actually is. However, I discovered as I was prepping for this discussion that there's actually an ISO standard around quality culture. So it's 10010 called, and it's in the quality management section or series of guidance for ISO. It's the guidance to understand, evaluate and improve organisational culture